As we journey through life, we inevitably change. The ambitions and desires that once defined us, the rush of building careers, the pursuit of recognition, and the desire to accumulate material wealth start to fade as we grow older. In youth, we often chase after external achievements, social validation, and the constant need to prove ourselves. But with age comes a profound shift in priorities. The desire for peace, serenity, and deeper, more meaningful connections with others begins to take center stage. In our later years, we realize that what truly matters isn't the number of accolades on our wall or the possessions we've gathered, but the emotional and mental peace we've cultivated along the way. This is a time when inner tranquility becomes more urgent than ever. The question we must ask ourselves is, how do we protect our emotional and mental well-being in old age? How do we surround ourselves with the right people and experiences that nourish our hearts, while letting go of those that deplete us? In this video, we'll explore the vital importance of being intentional about the events and relationships we choose to engage in. As we age, it's no longer about attending every social gathering or pleasing every person who enters our life. Instead, it's about carefully selecting the experiences that bring us peace and connecting with those who truly uplift us. Drawing on the timeless wisdom of Buddhist philosophy, we'll explore how practices like mindfulness and wise decision-making can empower us to lead a life of fulfillment and serenity, especially in our later years. Together, we'll uncover how small, deliberate choices, the people we spend time with, the events we attend, and the thoughts we cultivate can shape our journey toward lasting peace in the golden years of life. The journey of seeking peace. As the years pass, many of us reach a point where the relentless pursuit of external validation begins to feel empty. Imagine a man in his late 60s, someone who has lived a full, eventful life. He spent the early decades of his existence chasing success, climbing the corporate ladder, and immersing himself in the hustle and bustle of societal expectations. Each day, he worked long hours, sacrificing time with loved ones and even his own health, all in the name of achievement. But now, in the quiet of his later years, he begins to ask himself, what was all that for? What have these years of hard work and ambition truly given him? Aside from a few trophies and a bank account, he starts to reflect deeply. The weight of success, once so alluring, now feels burdensome. He begins to see how those years, while full of activity and accomplishment, did not bring him lasting happiness. His life had been defined by the need to perform, to prove something to the world. Yet now, as time slows down, what he craves most is something more intangible, something not measured by accolades or possessions, but by a sense of contentment and peace. One day, he receives an invitation to a glamorous, high-profile party. The event promises a display of wealth, grandeur, and the reunion of old acquaintances. The idea of reconnecting with friends from his past is tempting. For a moment, he envisions the excitement of the evening, the laughter, the fine wine, the social connections. It's an opportunity to relive some of his former glory, a brief escape back into a world that once thrilled him. But as he begins preparing for the event, doubts begin to creep in. He starts thinking about the energy it will take to attend, the superficial conversations, the small talk, the performance of social niceties. More than that, he senses that he'll likely walk away feeling more drained than fulfilled. Despite the allure of wealth and prestige, he wonders whether this kind of gathering will truly enrich his life, or if it's just another distraction from what he really needs, inner peace. At that moment, a simple but powerful teaching from the Buddha surfaces in his mind. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. He realizes that his peace is not dependent on the external noise of a lavish party, nor is it tied to old identities or superficial connections. The peace he seeks can only come from within. He doesn't need to fill his life with distractions or prove anything to anyone. What he needs is quiet reflection, stillness, and the ability to listen to his own heart. In that moment, he makes a choice that marks a turning point in his life. He decides to stay home that evening, opting for peace instead of the external excitement. He enjoys a quiet night, perhaps reading, meditating, or simply sitting in silence. In that space of solitude, he begins to reconnect with himself. The simple act of choosing peace over busyness brings a deep sense of contentment, a contentment that cannot be found in social circles or material wealth. It is a peace rooted in being rather than doing. This moment of clarity becomes the beginning of a new chapter in his life. He realizes that not all opportunities or gatherings are worth his time or energy. He becomes more selective in how he spends his days and with whom he spends them. His decisions are now guided by the principle of mindfulness, choosing only those experiences and relationships that nourish his emotional and spiritual well-being. He understands that the value of his life is no longer determined by the number of parties attended or the people impressed by his accomplishments. What matters now is cultivating a life that reflects his true self, one defined not by external expectations, but by inner peace, mindfulness, and authentic connections. This shift is not just about avoiding superficial engagements, but rather about making intentional choices that support his journey towards spiritual growth and fulfillment. He chooses to focus on relationships that are grounded in sincerity, not in the need for validation or status. He embraces activities that enrich his mind and spirit, like spending time in nature, engaging in deep conversations with loved ones, or practicing meditation. This conscious approach to life becomes his path to peace, a peace that transcends the fleeting joys of success and wealth and settles into a lasting serenity. Why avoid negative gatherings? The world around us often presents a myriad of opportunities to engage in conversations, events, and social situations. In the past, we may have jumped into every social gathering, every party, and every family event without much thought, eager to connect, enjoy, or simply pass the time. But as we grow older, we become more discerning about the environments and people we allow into our lives. Not all social interactions are beneficial or nourishing to the soul. In fact, many can be draining, spiritually depleting, or emotionally harmful, leaving us feeling exhausted rather than uplifted. For example, think of a family gathering that seems to have all the ingredients for a typical reunion, relatives coming together to share stories and laughter. Yet, upon arrival, you notice that much of the conversation revolves around gossip, judgment, or criticism of others. The atmosphere becomes heavy with negativity. People criticize their coworkers, neighbors, and even each other. Even if you choose to remain silent and avoid participating, simply being in the midst of this negativity can weigh heavily on your mind and heart. After such an event, you might feel drained, disillusioned, or even more stressed than before. Or consider a lavish party focused solely on displays of wealth and status. The conversation is shallow, dominated by name-dropping, materialistic boasts, and comparisons. The evening ends, and while you may have had some pleasant moments of laughter or socializing, you're left feeling disconnected, as if the interactions were nothing more than empty gestures. You wonder whether you've truly gained anything meaningful from the experience. It's at moments like these that we realize the external glitter, the crowd, and the pretentious displays are not what nourish the spirit. Buddhism teaches us that attachments to negative emotions such as anger, jealousy, pride, and judgment can cloud our minds, creating unnecessary suffering. The Buddha often spoke of the danger of mental defilements, the afflictions that arise from negative thought patterns and toxic emotions. In our later years, these teachings resonate more deeply as we recognize the importance of protecting our mental peace. Our time and energy are precious, and we cannot afford to waste them on environments or people that bring no value to our well-being. It becomes crucial to make wise choices about where we invest our emotional resources. At this stage in life, we are more vulnerable to the effects of negativity. We may have fewer coping mechanisms for dealing with toxic environments or emotionally draining situations. The emotional toll of spending time in gatherings filled with criticism, complaining, or competition can be far more harmful than we realize. Even if we don't actively participate in the negative conversation, simply being surrounded by it can affect our mindset and mood. Our thoughts begin to mirror the negative energy in the room, and before long, we find ourselves feeling resentful, anxious, or irritated, emotions that detract from the peace we seek. Buddhism offers us profound insights into the importance of right speech and the company we keep. The Buddha often emphasized that we should surround ourselves with individuals who promote clarity, wisdom, kindness, and joy. Our interactions should encourage growth and enlightenment, not perpetuate harmful patterns of thought and behavior. Just as a healthy garden requires fertile soil, sunlight, and proper care, our minds thrive when nurtured by positivity, wisdom, and compassion. Being in the company of those who foster these qualities can uplift our spirit, while toxic gatherings have the opposite effect, pulling us away from the peace we yearn for. Many people continue to attend family events, social functions, or parties out of a sense of obligation, trying to please others or keep up appearances. However, if these gatherings are not aligned with your values, they can leave you emotionally depleted. The need to fit in or avoid conflict can push us into situations where we are surrounded by negativity, gossip, or unkind behavior. While the pressure to attend is often external, the decision to go or stay should always come from an internal place of awareness. It is essential to recognize that we have the power to choose the events and relationships that nourish our soul, rather than simply acquiesce to expectations. True peace is found not in adhering to social conventions or meeting others' demands, but in choosing to surround ourselves with positivity, wisdom, and tranquility. Instead of large, noisy gatherings, we may find joy in smaller, more intimate settings with like-minded individuals who share our values of peace and mindfulness. These might be gatherings centered around meaningful discussions, acts of kindness, or spiritual practices that nurture the soul. Alternatively, peace may come from solitude, a quiet walk in nature, a session of meditation, or time spent reflecting in silence. The key is to be selective. The choice is yours. You have the power to say no to situations that drain your energy and choose instead the people and events that uplift and inspire you. By making these conscious choices, you are taking active steps toward preserving your mental and emotional well-being, which in turn supports your overall happiness and peace of mind in your later years. Why avoid negative gatherings? As we age, the allure of luxury and material wealth often loses its shine. The cars, the mansions, the expensive designer labels, these once may have held a certain level of importance or prestige, but now, with time and reflection, they seem increasingly hollow. Yet, despite this shift, many people still find themselves attending lavish parties, networking events, and social circles that are primarily focused on showcasing wealth and status. These events may appear glamorous, filled with sparkling lights and exquisite decorations. On the surface, they promise excitement, social connections, and perhaps even an opportunity for recognition. But beneath the surface, the question remains, do they truly contribute to our sense of peace and happiness? Buddhist philosophy offers us profound insights into this dynamic, teaching that attachment to material things is one of the main causes of suffering. When we cling to possessions, wealth, or external validation, we often find ourselves chasing fleeting moments of pleasure rather than cultivating enduring peace. The more we accumulate, the more we may feel the pressure to keep up with expectations, to prove ourselves, and to chase an ever-elusive ideal. But in doing so, we lose sight of the true sources of joy, connection, compassion, and wisdom. The Buddha spoke of the three poisons, greed, hatred, and delusion, which perpetuate the cycle of suffering. Attachment to material wealth often feeds these poisons, creating a cycle of desire that can never be fully satisfied. In our later years, it becomes increasingly vital to understand that the value of life is not measured in possessions, accolades, or social standing. These external markers may offer temporary satisfaction or validation, but they do little to nourish the soul or provide lasting contentment. True peace and happiness are found in the relationships we cultivate, the wisdom we gain, and the ability to connect meaningfully with the world around us. This is why, as we age, it is crucial to reframe our priorities and recognize that life's greatest treasures are intangible: love, compassion, mindfulness, and inner peace. While there's nothing inherently wrong with enjoying beautiful things or living in a comfortable, well-appointed home. It's important to recognize when these pursuits begin to replace the more meaningful aspects of life. A life filled with material concerns, social posturing, and the constant pursuit of outward success is one that ultimately leaves us feeling empty. The Buddha spoke of the emptiness of material possessions, emphasizing that no matter how much we acquire, we are always left wanting more. True fulfillment does not come from the acquisition of things, but from the cultivation of a peaceful mind, a compassionate heart, and meaningful connections with others. For older individuals, this realization becomes particularly important. As we move into our later years, we may feel the need to reassess the choices we've made. Have we spent our time chasing things that truly matter? Or have we been caught in the whirlwind of social expectations and material pursuits? It's easy to fall into the trap of attending extravagant events or joining circles that prioritize wealth and status, simply to fit in or maintain an image. But in doing so, we risk overlooking the more meaningful aspects of life. The question to ask ourselves is, does this event align with my deeper values? Or am I simply seeking distractions from the realities of life? For the man in our story, the turning point comes when he begins to see through the illusion of materialism. Rather than attending another high-profile event just to keep up appearances or impress others, he starts to question the purpose behind such gatherings. Are they truly fulfilling? Do they bring him closer to the peace he desires? Or do they leave him feeling drained and disconnected? And so, he makes a conscious decision to seek out gatherings that nourish his soul rather than depleting it. He begins to participate in small, intimate gatherings centered around philosophy, meditation, and personal growth. These are spaces where the focus is not on what one has, but on who one is. The people in these gatherings share a deep passion for mindfulness and spiritual exploration, and the conversations revolve around questions of purpose, compassion, and wisdom. In these moments, the man feels a sense of belonging and connection that he never experienced at the extravagant parties he once attended. These gatherings, though humble in comparison to the high society events of his past, are filled with a richness of spirit that far outweighs any material wealth. They offer something money cannot buy: authentic connection, a shared commitment to inner growth, and a profound sense of peace. He realizes that his time is better spent nurturing these relationships, deepening his understanding of life's true meaning, and fostering the kind of connections that align with his values of mindfulness, compassion, and personal growth. In choosing these kinds of gatherings over those that are focused on material wealth or superficial displays, the man not only protects his peace of mind, but also fosters a deeper sense of fulfillment. He comes to understand that the true richness of life lies not in the glittering distractions of the material world, but in the cultivation of a peaceful, compassionate, and mindful existence, avoiding conflict and tension-filled events. At this stage in life, many people are tired of conflict and stress. The constant pressure of navigating disagreements, tense relationships, and unresolved emotions can be exhausting. After years of dealing with the complexities of life, the desire for peace and harmony becomes more pronounced. Yet, the world still offers plenty of opportunities to engage in heated debates, uncomfortable family dynamics, or tense social situations. These moments may seem like unavoidable parts of life, but they often come at the cost of our emotional and mental well-being. We've all been there, at a family dinner where old wounds are reopened, or at a social event where tension is palpable. The subtle exchange of sharp words, the uncomfortable silences, or the undercurrent of unresolved issues can turn what should be a peaceful gathering into an emotional battlefield. These experiences can not only rob us of our immediate peace, but also affect our long-term well-being. Chronic exposure to such negativity can lead to anxiety, stress, and even physical health problems. Over time, they erode the sense of tranquility that many of us long for in our later years. The Buddha taught that anger and resentment are poisons to the mind. These emotions cloud our judgment, obscure our understanding, and create unnecessary suffering. In his teachings, he emphasized the importance of cultivating loving kindness, metta, and compassion, karuna, to combat negative feelings and maintain inner peace. Anger and resentment, when allowed to fester, prevent us from seeing the world clearly. They block our ability to connect with others on a deeper level and cause us to react impulsively, rather than respond thoughtfully. This is why, in the later stages of life, it's so important to avoid placing ourselves in situations that only breed conflict or discomfort. As we age, we may find that we have less energy to deal with the emotional complexities of family disputes, workplace drama, or social expectations. The relentless pursuit of being right or winning arguments often becomes less appealing. The toll it takes on our emotional and physical health is no longer worth it. Instead of seeking validation through conflict or attempting to resolve old grudges, we begin to prioritize peace and personal growth. When we choose to distance ourselves from conflict, we create space for clarity and peace. It's not about avoiding difficult conversations or running away from our responsibilities. Rather, it's about being mindful of the environments and situations we choose to engage in. The key is recognizing when a situation is unlikely to foster understanding or resolution and choosing not to participate in it. This is not a sign of weakness, but a reflection of wisdom. Knowing when to walk away is a powerful form of self-care. Take the man in our story. For instance, after years of attending family reunions where old tensions would inevitably resurface, he realizes that these gatherings are more about reliving past grievances than fostering connection. He decides to decline invitations to these events, no longer willing to put himself in environments that perpetuate negative emotions. Instead, he chooses to spend his time with friends who share his values, individuals who bring peace, understanding, and positivity into his life. He surrounds himself with people who lift him up, not those who pull him into the storm of conflict. In choosing peace over conflict, he creates space for a more meaningful life. He begins to engage in activities that promote inner growth, attending meditation sessions, joining peaceful nature walks, or simply spending quiet time in contemplation. These moments of stillness are where he finds true fulfillment. He realizes that by avoiding conflict, he can protect his mental and emotional health and redirect his energy into nurturing the relationships and activities that bring him joy. This shift in mindset also affects how he interacts with others. He becomes more mindful of his words and actions, choosing to speak with kindness and patience rather than reacting impulsively. He recognizes that not every situation requires a response, and sometimes, silence is the most peaceful choice. In letting go of the need to engage in every argument or defend himself in every situation, he finds a greater sense of freedom and peace. In our later years, we are gifted with the opportunity to choose how we spend our time and energy. Choosing peace over conflict is not a passive act. It is an intentional choice to prioritize our well-being and cultivate an environment where we can thrive. The less we allow ourselves to be dragged into tension-filled situations, the more we open up space for the things that truly matter: love, serenity, and spiritual growth. Ultimately, avoiding conflict and tension-filled events is about preserving our emotional and mental health. By making conscious decisions about where to place our energy, we can ensure that our later years are filled with peace, fulfillment, and a deeper connection to the world around us. Choosing meaningful relationships. One of the most important choices we can make as we age is in the relationships we cultivate. In our younger years, we may have focused on quantity over quality, collecting acquaintances, and attending social events. These connections often felt like a way to stay relevant, gain validation, or simply fulfill social obligations. But as we grow older, the desire for genuine connection becomes paramount. The relationships that bring us the most peace are not those based on superficial interactions or societal expectations, but those that are grounded in understanding, respect, and shared values. Buddhism teaches the importance of cultivating right relationships, which are based on mutual respect, understanding, and kindness. The Buddha often spoke of the need for sangha, or spiritual community, highlighting that our relationships with others have a profound impact on our mental and emotional well-being. In particular, right relationships are those that support our spiritual growth, provide comfort during difficult times, and encourage us to be our best selves. As we age, we must be willing to let go of toxic relationships, those that drain our energy, bring us stress, or cause us harm. These relationships may have once served a purpose, but as we mature, we must discern whether they still contribute to our happiness or whether they keep us tethered to old habits and conflicts that no longer serve our peace. Rather than clinging to relationships based on convenience or obligation, we should focus on nurturing those that help us grow spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. This means surrounding ourselves with people who share our values, who uplift us with their words and actions, and who walk beside us on the path of mindfulness and self-awareness. These relationships don't necessarily need to be numerous, but they should be genuine, meaningful, and aligned with our deeper aspirations. For the man in our story, this shift in perspective becomes clear as he reflects on his life. He begins to recognize that many of the relationships he once considered important were built on the foundation of status or appearances, not genuine connection. These relationships, while not inherently harmful, have often left him feeling empty or misunderstood. As he embraces the teachings of Buddhism and begins to prioritize peace and mindfulness, he feels a calling to reconnect with people who share his love for meditation, philosophy, and spiritual growth. His new circle of friends is small but powerful. These are people who understand the value of silence, the importance of self-reflection, and the joy of being present in the moment. They don't seek to impress one another or compete for attention. Instead, they share deep conversations, quiet moments of meditation, and mutual respect. With these individuals, he experiences a sense of belonging that he had never felt in the busy social circles of his past. It is no longer about fitting in or meeting others' expectations. It is about being true to himself and finding peace in the company of those who encourage his growth. In his new way of life, the man no longer feels the need to impress others or be part of social circles that offer nothing of substance. He understands that the quality of his relationships is far more important than the number of them. He no longer attends large, noisy gatherings where he feels like just another face in the crowd. Instead, he chooses to spend his time with individuals who inspire him to be more mindful, more compassionate, and more connected to his true self. These relationships nurture his spirit and give him the peace and clarity he seeks in his later years. Buddhism teaches that relationships should not be a source of attachment or dependency, but rather a source of support and mutual growth. The Buddha spoke of the importance of right view, which extends to how we see and engage with others. By choosing relationships that align with our values and spiritual aspirations, we open the door to deeper understanding and a more peaceful existence. The man in our story recognizes that the time spent with his new friends is not only more enriching but also more aligned with the life he wants to lead. These relationships bring him the peace and fulfillment that he once sought through external accomplishments and social approval. As we grow older, the need for authentic, meaningful relationships becomes more urgent. We are no longer interested in filling our lives with empty chatter or relationships that drain us. Instead, we seek companionship with those who encourage us to be our truest selves. The relationships that truly nourish us are those that support our emotional well-being, foster our spiritual growth, and inspire us to live in alignment with our deepest values. For the man in the story, this shift from quantity to quality is transformative, as it not only enhances his life, but also brings him closer to the peace and serenity he has been searching for all along. In old age, the choices we make about the events we attend and the people we surround ourselves with have a profound impact on our well-being. With each passing year, we are presented with fewer opportunities to waste time on things that don't contribute to our inner peace. By choosing peaceful, meaningful gatherings over superficial, stressful ones, we can create a life that is not only filled with serenity but also deeply fulfilling. These choices, though seemingly small, have the power to shape the quality of our remaining years, providing us with an enriching experience of life that extends beyond fleeting pleasures. The teachings of Buddhism offer valuable insights into how to live with intention and mindfulness. The Buddha's wisdom encourages us to let go of attachments to material possessions, to the expectations of others, and to the distractions of the world. When we are no longer swayed by the pursuit of wealth or social status, we open the door to a deeper, more meaningful existence. Instead of chasing external validation, we begin to cultivate the internal qualities that lead to lasting peace, compassion, awareness, and presence. As we age, it becomes essential to let go of attachments to materialism, avoid toxic environments, and cultivate relationships that nourish our hearts and souls. The people we choose to spend time with, the events we attend, and the spaces we create in our lives must be aligned with our values. In doing so, we make room for joy, love, and contentment. Our relationships become the cornerstone of our well-being, and our time becomes more precious because we choose to invest it in what truly matters. Ultimately, the peace we seek is not found in external circumstances, but in our ability to choose wisely and to live with mindfulness and compassion. In a world that constantly pulls us in many directions, it's easy to forget the power of a conscious choice. But in our later years, we have the wisdom to understand that true fulfillment comes from within. It is our ability to be present, to nurture meaningful connections, and to live authentically that allows us to experience a deep, lasting peace. As we continue this journey of life, may we all choose wisely, finding joy in simplicity, and living in a way that brings us lasting peace and joy. May we embrace our older years with the courage to let go of what no longer serves us, and the grace to hold close the things that truly bring us happiness. In the end, the greatest gift we can give ourselves is a life well lived, filled with purpose, love, and peace.